Part of our job here at Classic Heroes, and a responsibility we take very seriously, is not just the obvious day-to-day maintenance and service and restoration of these cars, but it's also giving people great advice and trying to stop people making some really very terrible mistakes. I mean, you can end up with something as lovely as that, but if you don't get the right advice and listen, you can also end up with something like that. My personal love affair with the M635 CSi, well, it started, they really weren't that old. They were nearly new cars still. And I still love them as much 30 odd years later as I did then. But as I hope I will show you with these two cars, I mean, there is two ends of the spectrum. There are the cars that are going to give that new owner enormous pleasure, and at the other end of the spectrum there is a whole tale of woe and disaster. Some of the biggest rise in values, certainly as a percentage, of course, is these 80s modern classics, and there's reasons for that. Our lifestyles have changed dramatically. I mean, we're busier than we ever have been, and no longer does the car nut want to sort of spend his Sundays titivating. What they want is that classic car feel, but with complete turnkey reliability, and that's what you get out of 80s modern classics, especially with the German brands. So 1976 saw the birth of the E24 6 Series model range, and BMW obviously needed to replace its very much loved and admired E9 3-litre CS range of cars. And we saw the first 630s, 633s, and then later 635s. All of those cars in either 3-speed auto or manual, overdrive or close ratio gearbox. So those facelifted post-82 cars, the 628 and the 635, were still available, but now as a 4-speed automatic with switchable gearbox, and still the overdrive manual 5-speed with the close ratio 5-speed option also. But the board still felt the E24 just needed something extra, and that of course is enter M635. The responsibility of building the ultimate E24 6 Series of course was given to BMW Motorsport, and who better else to do that? They'd already built an engine that was perfect for the car, the legendary M88, the 24-valve twin-cam 3.5 litre. But it needed changing. The engine, to get it in, needed to sit on a 30-degree tilt. It was wet sumped. The mechanical fuel injection was replaced with Bosch Motronic, but retaining the individual butterfly housings. That was mated onto a special Getrag sports gearbox, and also standard equipment was limited slip differential. Now with 286 horsepower under the bonnet, it was time for BMW Motorsport to concentrate on steering, suspension and brakes. The introduction of M1 style 4-pot larger calipers with 300mm discs on the front were introduced. Suspension benefited from sports Bilsteins, motorsport springs and uprated front and rear anti-roll bars, and even the steering ratio was changed with a different ZF power assisted steering box. The interior of M6s benefited from these lovely BMW sports seats, and you of course got your lovely Motorsport 3-spoke steering wheel. Externally, the car got a deeper front air dam and rather lovely wheel arch extensions. Those extensions are of course there to cater for extra grip, which was the 415mm TRX tyre that only the M6 had. 1987 saw the final major facelift to the E24, and we saw the introduction of these slightly bigger Euro spec type bumpers front and rear. But the real difference came in the interior with this lavish Napa leather, which was just everywhere, headlining sun visors, rear seats, front seats, door cards, dashboards, centre console, under trays, glove box. Everything was stitched in hide. The last 20 Highlines to be sold by BMW GB were the limited edition run called M635 CSi Motorsport, and those are easily recognised today by their very special colours, the 3 colours named after 3 race circuits synonymous with BMW's motorsport history: Nogaro, Misano and Macau. The M88 engine was well and truly developed by the time it made its way into the front of the E24. It was pretty much bomb-proof, no crankshaft problems, No oil pump problems, no cylinder problems, no camshaft problems. But high mileage examples are now starting to suffer from oil leaks, which is age of course as well. Oil drain back tubes can leak, cam carriers can leak, being gasketless onto the cylinder head, front timing covers can leak. But the real big issue with an M88 engine is that 100,000 mile mark and the timing chain replacement. It's a big job to do it right, and unfortunately some are not done right. Some people choose to replace the timing chain without removing the cylinder head. The problem with the M88 is you don't have an upper timing cover, so when you remove the lower timing cover you expose the front of the head gasket. So the only way to do a timing chain properly is sump off, cylinder head off, replace timing chain, oil pump chain, crank sprocket, all tensioners, guide rails, the hydraulic tensioner, and then reassemble the engine with new head gasket, valve stem oil seals, sump gasket, all new oil seals, O-rings as required. Once that's done, you'll get another 100,000 miles out of an M88 engine. But it is expensive, labour intensive and parts are expensive. All of us here at Classic Heroes, remember we're car nuts, and we're more than happy to have a natter with you on the phone and give you all the advice you need. But is that enough? I'm not so sure. My suggestion is get an E24 properly inspected.